Good people of YouTube, my name is Spanner and welcome back to the Curse of Naxxramas. It's week 4 and the Construct Quarter has just opened. So since people seem to enjoy what I did last week, I will only be doing heroic mode again, and we'll start by taking a look at the decks that I used to defeat the bosses, and then taking a look at the fights themselves, which I already recorded, so I'll be doing post-commentary on those. But first, let's take a quick look at the cards, at the new cards that you can get this week. So for neutral cards we have the Undertaker, which is a 1 mana 1/2, and whenever you summon a minion with Death Rattle it gains +1/+1. Then you have Zombie Chow, which is a 1 mana 2/3, with the Death Rattle restore 5 health to the enemy hero. There's also Mad Scientist, which is a 2 mana 2/2, with the Death Rattle, put a secret from your deck into the battlefield. Then there's the Wailing Soul, 4 mana 3/5, and has the battle cry silence your other minions. And finally there are 2 legendaries. There's Fugan, 5 mana 4/7, with the Death Rattle, if Stalag also died this game, summon Thaddius. And there's his counterpart, Stalag, a 5 mana 7/4, with the Death Rattle, if Fugan also died this game, summon Thaddius. Thaddius is not a card that you can get in your collection, it's a card that you summon if both Stalag and Fugan die in the game. It's a 10 mana 11/11 Thaddius. Okay, then there's the class cards. This week there were Warrior and Priest. So for Warrior we have Death's Bite, 4 mana 4/2 weapon, with the Death Rattle deal 1 damage to all minions. And for Priest we have the Dark Cultist, 3 mana 3/4, with the Death Rattle give a random friendly minion +3 health. Alright, now that we've taken a look at the cards that you can get, let's take a look at the heroic versions of the bosses. So the first thing that you notice is that there are 4 bosses this week instead of 3. We have Patchwerk, Globbulus, Gluth and Thaddius. So let's take a look at the hero powers. Patchwerk has a 4 mana hero power called Hateful Strike, and it destroys a minion. Globbulus has a 0 mana Poison Clouds, deal 2 damage to all enemies. If any die, summon a slime. The slime, I believe it's a 2/2 slime. Gluth has Decimate for 0 mana, change the health of enemy minions to 1. And finally there's Thaddius. For 0 mana he has Polarity Shift, swap the attack and health of all minions. Alright, now that everyone knows what the bosses are and what they do, let's take a look at the decks that I used to defeat each of them, and then let's look at the fights themselves. Alright, this is the deck that I used to defeat Patchwerk, with a Priest, not only because it's my favorite class, but I kinda wanted to try something a little bit silly against him. Surprisingly it worked. But overall, I do not feel this is a very good deck to use against him. But try it anyway. You could be lucky as I was, but you'll see what I mean in the actual fight. So I'm gonna skip the Mind Visions. These are these I added only to try this gimmick. And overall, I went with a Death Rattle based deck, since I kinda wanted to try the new cards, like the Undertaker, so I added a lot of Death Rattles like Zombie Chow, Blood Mage Thalnos, Haunted Creepers, Loot Hoarders, Nerubian Eggs, Dancing Swords, Death Lords, Harvest Golems, Baron Riven there, since we're gonna have Death Rattles, why not have them trigger twice, Sludge Belchers, some Holy Fires, and Light Wells for healing. And Acidic Swamp Ooze, and there's only one reason I would add Acidic Swamp Ooze, it's because he has a weapon. Pretty nasty weapon, so I kinda added these. Also these are kinda part of the gimmick. Alright, this is the deck that I used. Basically, if the gimmick didn't work, I kinda wanted cheap minions that I could flood the board with, so as to avoid his hero power, since he can start activating it at 4 mana, and at 4 mana he can kill any minion that I have. So with the death rattles at least I get some benefit out of it, and since most of them are pretty cheap, it's a bit on the cheap side, the deck, I figured at least I would have most of them stick in the boards. Alright, let's jump into the fight and I'll show you the little gimmick I tried. Alright, so the first thing you'll notice is that he does not have any cards. He only has a weapon. He does not get fatigue damage, so don't even think about it. But he has that weapon, which is 4 damage, 8 durability, and in heroic mode it has Wind Fury. So we're gonna take 8 damage every turn. Like that. So that's pretty nasty. So I decide to get the Light Well right away, so I can start getting some extra healing on my side. And I added the Mind Vision and the Oozes because the death rattle of the weapon says that it goes back to his hand. And since he doesn't have any other cards, I can just use Mind Vision and get the weapon myself. That was the thing I wanted to try, although I got very, very lucky. So I get the Undertaker and the Leper Gnome and start doing some damage. And now you'll see that he starts using his hero power, which is very annoying, especially if you get taunts. Taunts, they don't really work for me, because he just destroys them. Okay, so his weapon is gone, and the Death Rattle put it back in his hands. So I use the Mind Vision, and now he got a hook too. It costs 3 mana, so if you have an Ooze in your starting hand, and you start with a coin, you can actually use it turn 1, and he can't use the weapon next turn, which is pretty handy. Saves you a couple damage. So now I have to heal myself. And now we get a new toy to play with. Gets rid of my Undertaker, which is a bit of a shame. Also, since he doesn't really attack my minions, the Light Wells will only heal me, which is pretty great. Okay, so now I have the choice of using Holy Fire to heal myself or putting some more minions. I decided to put some more minions and heal myself with the hero power because I'm still above 8 health, so I can't die next turn. Now he gets rid of my healing, which would be a problem if I did not have exact lethal on the board. So a bit lucky in how all of this turned out, because I couldn't heal myself out of lethal range next turn. But even if he did kill my minions, I had the Holy Fire to provide some extra damage. Alright, let's jump into the next deck. Okay, again with the Priest, I use this to defeat Globbulus, the second boss. So his hero power, if you remember, deals 2 damage to all enemy minions for 0 mana, so he'll always use that in the beginning of his turn. So this time I went with something, I wanted something a little bit more based on health and healing. So I added 2 circles of healing to heal my guys, Holy Smite to get rid of extra threats, Inner Fire because I added 2 Divine Spirits and Power Word Shield, so why not add an Inner Fire? Northshire Clerics, because he'll constantly deal 2 damage to all of my minions, so we could potentially gain a lot of cards from this. Shadowward Pains to deal with threats, Light Wells for healing, Shadowward Death because he has a nasty cards he has a nasty combo, which is he has that new card, the Echoing Ooze, that summons an exact copy of itself at the end of the turn. So he sometimes plays it, uses one of his cards that gives it 4/4 and taunt, and then he has 2 decent threats because it'll copy the buffs. The Echoing Ooze effect will copy the buffs. So I added a Shadow Death to get rid of something like that. 2 Thought Steals to maybe make use of some of his cards. Dark Cultist, the new Priest cards. With the Death Rattle give plus 3 health to a friendly minion. Again, more health for my guys. Light Spawn to take advantage of all these this health gain. Gurubashi Berserker, really good card that I added. I can keep on healing the 2 damage to him and it'll keep growing more and more powerful. Holy Fire for damage and healing, and again, Temple Enforcers for some more extra health. Okay, so this is the deck. Let's jump into the fight and see how it went.
Anduin versus Globbulus.
Alright, here we are against Globbulus.
The light shall bring victory.
So remember, he always uses his hero power at the beginning of the turn, which deals 2 damage to all minions, all enemy minions, and myself too, so to all enemy characters. Okay, so since he does that, I start with the Northshire Cleric, because if he has no way to deal with it, I can just get a card by healing it back to full. And I managed to do just that, so no actual plays that I can do yet, unfortunately. And there we go, Echoing Ooze. He has a ton of these little guys. So nothing much I can do, so I get another card. I get an Inner Fire, but it doesn't, it won't really do much, because if I use the Inner Fire and kill one of the oozes, he just uses the Poison Cloud and uses the other ooze to kill it off. So, bit of a waste of Inner Fire, in my opinion. Oh, there's a Cult Master. Doesn't really help him to take advantage of its ability, because I have no minions that he can kill off. So, there we go, I use the Thought Steal and get the Mutating Injection. You may have seen it there. 3 mana, gives a minion 4/4 and taunt. So he uses another Cult Master, so the obvious choice will be to Holy Nova. Otherwise I'll take a ton of damage. We also got a Slam, if you can see there, from the Thought Steal. He has a Sludge Belcher, so I add the Gurubashi Berserker, start taking advantage of the Poison Clouds. Now he has those Spectral Knights, which are very hard to deal with, especially as a priest. Not only does it have 4 health, which is that magic number for a priest, but it's untargetable by spells. So I decide to protect myself with the Mutating Injection, and then add a little bit of Divine Spirits. So now we have a Super Taunt. A Super Taunt that continues to gain power as it takes damage. A couple more Echoing Oozes. He really likes filling the board with those. And he just goes absolutely crazy and just throws everything at me. There you go, all the users copying themselves. It's a pretty cool animation. So now I decide to get a card out of this at least. I use a circle of healing because I'm getting a little low on health. I want to heal myself. I don't want to stay behind in terms of health. So I just go for face with the Gurubashi. Okay, now he adds an abomination. And just goes crazy again and throws everything he has at me. Which almost works, but unfortunately I added the other Gurubashi Berserker last turn, so I just use it to kill the abomination and game over. And with this, heroic Globbulus is down. So let's take a look at the next deck. Alright, this is the deck that I used for Gluth. So if you remember, his hero power turns my minions, makes them have 1 health. And but that's not the main theme of what I tried to do here. He has a weapon that gets more powerful depending on minions with death rattle dying, and he starts with 2 of them. So I went with the mage because I wanted to freeze him, prevent him from using the weapon. It's something that I tried with Patchwerk, but didn't really work out because, well, he could just destroy my minions, even if he was frozen. Especially because I wanted to make use of the water elemental, so I decided not to use this against him. So we have 2 ice lances, 2 mirror images. Even if the taunts get 1 health, they still have to be attacked by something, so... Argent Squires for some early game, Frostbolts for more freezing, Oozes to possibly get rid of the weapons, Mad Scientists and Kirin Tor Mages to make use of the ice blocks. I expected to take a ton of damage, so I added the ice blocks to stay alive as longer as possible. 2 Arcane Intellects for card draw, Frost Nova to freeze his guys, prevent damage, Acolyte of Pain to draw more cards, even at 1 health. If I play it with 5 mana, I can just use my hero ability and get at least 2 cards out of it. 2 Fireballs for damage and removal, Polymorph to take care of his threats, no Mission Inventor, single one, just for some card draw. I actually had a slot free, so I decided to go with this one. Water Elementals, these guys are pretty great if he has an empty board, because then you can just use them constantly to freeze him. Flame Strike for board clear and Archmage Antonidas just to give me a little bit of a punch late game for unlimited fireballs. Okay, so this is the deck that I used, so let's see how it went.
Jaina versus Gluth.
Alright, here we are against Gluth. So you see he starts with an unstable ghoul and a zombie chow. So since he does have a weapon, I decide to keep the ooze, and I just use the mirror image straight away. He can just make them 1 health, but doesn't really matter, at least it blocks 2 hits. There we go, he has the weapon Jaws. Whenever a minion with Death Rattle dies, gains +2 attack. So, ooze, and get rid of that. So he now coins a Skeletal Smith, with the Death Rattle destroys your opponent's weapon. Luckily I don't use weapons. I just get an Acolyte of Pain and ram the ooze into the ghoul, and the Death Rattle makes me draw cards. This way I get at least 2 cards from the Acolytes. There's another one of those, unstable ghouls, and a zombie chow. These guys are very useful to heal myself. So here I take advantage of the ghoul's death rattle. So I frostbolt it, get rid of the zombie chow, heal myself, and then ping that guy. I used the frostbolt because I just gotten a new one, so if I needed to freeze him, I had something to do it with. Since that thing has 2 health, I just use a no mission inventor, gets me a card and Argent Squire, just to be a little bit more mana efficient. And I didn't want to use the Water Elemental since he had the minions on the board and could kill the Water Elementals, and they are very useful for this fight, at least in my case. So he got an Abomination, so I just take advantage of its death rattle again to kill the zombie chow. Heals myself, but since minions with death rattle are dying, he gets a pretty powerful weapon. It's now a 7/3. And he has that card, Enrage. Gives your hero plus 6 attack this turn. So I'm now at 5 health. Luckily, my Water Elemental survived, so he's now frozen. Got a little mad scientist on the boards, and the other one. Because the only secrets I have are ice blocks, so if one of those dies, I am safe. As you can see here, I just fireball that, then use one of the mad scientists to kill the little blob thingy. This gives me an ice block. The Water Elemental is still alive, so I can freeze him. I don't want to use the other Water Elemental, because I'm not sure if he has some AoE clear. This way I have a Water Elemental and a Frostbolt for emergencies. So he plays 2 Necro Knights, which are pretty powerful minions, but the disadvantage is when they die, they kill the minions which are adjacent to them. So since my Water Elemental stays alive, here I just decide to Frostbolt one of them and then just sends everything at them. Not before playing Antonidas, of course. Gotta get them fireballs. So killing one will kill the other. I don't take advantage of the death rattle of the mad scientist because I only have ice blocks, but doesn't really matter. Everything's being decimated, but as long as they stay on the boards. As long as they stay alive, it doesn't matter what the amount of health they have. So now it's time for Antonidas to do some serious work. And that Water Elemental is really paying off. And here I just decide to go for it with all the fireballs I can muster. He adds a Zombie Chum, which is a great card to heal myself. But luckily I have lethal, because I can freeze him and I have an Ice Lance in my hand. Plus 2 fireballs, courtesy of Archmage Antonidas. And then Gluth is no more. Alright, let's take a look at the deck I used for Thaddius next. Alright, so for Thaddius, which has the hero power Polarity Shift, which switches the health and attack of minions at the start of his turn, I decided to go with the Paladin. First, he starts with both Fugan and Stalag on the board, but don't worry, if they die they won't summon a Thaddius, because you're playing against him. And since they have, they can go to a maximum of 7 health, if not buffed. I added the Big Game Hunter for that. Added the Humility, because if I get them with 1 attack and they switch, then they have 1 health, and for that I added some noble sacrifices to prevent damage and kill those guys when they have low health, and elven archers. Elven archers are great for this because they deal 1 damage and they combo very well with equality. Holy Light to heal myself. Nerubian eggs because since they have 0 attack, when they shift they die and they summon a 4/4 Nerubian. Which doesn't suffer from the effects of polarity shift, because both the attack and health are equal. Wild Pyromancer, just for some extra punch for my spells and to combo with equality. Eldor Peacekeepers, for the same reason as Humility. I've already explained the Big Game Hunter, Harvest Golem. It kinda sticks around. It's always a good minion to have. Some True Silver Champions to deal with guys, and a little bit extra healing for myself. Blessing of Kings, just to buff some of my guys. 4/4, so they won't be so weak if they switch the health and attack. Consecration, it's a bit of a staple. Hammer of Wrath for damage. Blessed Champion, I figured I would add one of these since I could have some minions that could benefit from it, since they keep changing attack and health. Azure Drake, again a 4/4, you can't go wrong with a minion that has the attack equal to its health. And Azure Drakes are just great in general. Extra spell damage and draw cards. Stampeding Kodo to combo with Humilities and Eldor Peacekeepers. Avenging Wrath for damage. Guardian of Kings to heal myself, the same with Lay on Hands, also to draw the cards, which is pretty important. I don't think I only have the Hammer of Wrath, I believe, for card draw, and the Tyrian Fordring, because why not have a Tyrian Fordring? It's a 6/6, it has Divine Shield, so it won't die that easily. Okay, so this was the deck, so let's see how that fight went.
Uther versus Thaddius.
Alright, here he is, the final boss of the Construct Quarter, Thaddius.
I will fight with honor.
So he doesn't start with anything on the board yet. You'll see what I mean. So, got a pretty decent hand here. Got a Nerubian Egg for turn 2, so I can get a 4/4 immediately. And there we go. First turn, Fugan and Stalag appear. So here I decide to risk it, because I will have a 4/4 next turn, which will deal with whichever one of them is the 7/4, unless he decided to kill it. This was a bit of a risk, because he could have just killed it with the 4/7, but he didn't. So now I just killed the 7/4 with it. And here I use the Eldor Peacekeeper, that way he'll have 1 health next turn, which will be a perfect target for my Elven Archer. And now I draw Equality, which is an even better option than what I was considering. I was considering using the Elven Archer on 7/1, then killing the 4/2, but this gives me a better option because I can kill everything.
One shot, one kill.
Now he uses Lightning Storm. He also has a ton of lightning spells. Well, maybe not a ton, but he has Lightning Storms, he has Lightning Bolts, Forked Lightning, that kind of stuff. So here I play the Harvest Golem, and that thing, the Noble Sacrifice, because the Zombie Chow will be a 3/2 this turn, so if he attacks me, the Zombie Chow will die. And he does that, so I get a little bit of healing, which I needed. But he decides to kill my Harvest Golem. You see, a ton of lightning spells. Got an equality, but I just ignored the Nerubian egg here. It's not a threat by itself. My hero power is also not bad for this boss, because it's a 1-1. It can't change the attack and health. It has a Spectral Knight, which is a pain to deal with. But I got an equality, so all is well. I also have a true silver champion. Okay, so here I was obviously thinking of either using the Consecration or the True Silver Champion. I opt for the True Silver and save the Consecration for next time. But he has a news. And he also has that card, Supercharge, gives your minions +2 health. So I'm in a bit of a dilemma here, because I can't kill anything. And he's going to deal a ton of damage to me next turn. So I use Humility on the Ooze, because next turn it'll be a 4-1 and the Zombie Child will be a 5-2. So I can kill both of them with a Consecration. I was hoping of using my minions, but he just got rid of them, because he has a ton of lightning spells. So now everything is ready for the Consecration, but he has a Haunted Creeper, which will just summon 2 1-1 spiders, but this Wild Pyromancer will deal with them. Another lightning spell, or lightning storm. He's a big fan of lightning. So here I make a mistake, I forget that the secret is a spell, and my Pyromancer dies because of it.
That was a mistake.
And he just taunts me because of it. Spectral Knight, I can't deal with that. But I do have the Noble Sacrifice, so when he switches to being a 6-4, he'll just ram the minion into my Noble Sacrifice and take 2 damage. So next turn he'll be a perfect target for my Consecration. Now it's just a game of top decking. Nerubian Egg is a pretty good choice here. It'll give me a 4-2 next turn. A 4-4 I mean, not a 4-2.
The damned stand ready.
I was thinking about doing this with Shaman, but I don't think it would have really worked, because all the totems would just die from his hero ability. So I went with the Paladin instead, because not only does the hero power is pretty decent for this, but I also have a lot of cards that I can use for healing. So, got a couple of Azure Drakes here. I'm not dead yet. I don't believe I could have died. Well, actually I could have if he had drawn a lightning bolt. I would be pretty dead, but he didn't, luckily. So I actually should have attacked the Sludge Belcher. That way he wouldn't be a 5-3, he would have been a 2-3, and I wouldn't have taken that much damage. So I got delay on hands off, so I'm in a pretty good position now. I have damage, I have minions, I have healing in the form of a Guardian of Kings. So all seems to be going pretty well. Even though it got a bit of a rough start. So got a Blessing of Kings off. I'm considering Blessed Champion, but I can't kill him yet. so there's no use. Hammer of Wrath is 5 damage, so pretty obvious choice to deal with the Nerubian there. And the Haunted Creeper isn't that much of a threat, it'll only be a 2-1. And since he's just top decking, there's no way he can get something that deals 8 damage to me. Alright, all the pieces are in place, so all that remains is to kill Thaddius. And there you go, final boss of the Construct Quarter in heroic mode, down. Alright, so this week's quarter is now done, so please join me next week for the 5th and final week of Naxxramas when we take on Frostworm Lair. So thank you guys for watching, I hope you have enjoyed this, and I'll see you all next week.